So today we're going to be looking at a Russian multi-tool, part of their new military issue equipment suite known as the Ratnik or Ratnik, which I think just actually means equipment in Russian. But it's basically just a modernization program for their soldiers. It includes, networked computers, updated firearms, things like that. And what's really interesting is there's an included multi-tool, which I think is the first I've seen of something like that, specifically for the Russian military, or really anyone in general, widespread like this, because they're looking for several hundred thousand, units issued, which would be the multi-tool in the entire system. So this one actually came, these two actually came from rus-mill.com. Reasonable price. You'll see them sold on eBay too. I think they're all the same. They all appear to come with the same sheath and have the same issued equipment. But reasonably priced, $69.99, and then shipping was an additional $15 for each of them, and that was EMS with the airship option, and that took about 2 weeks. And note, if you do buy from them, it's better to transfer directly from a PayPal balance as opposed to your bank account. The bank account processing adds another 2 weeks or so, as it has to go from your local bank to Russia, conversion, clearing, and everything else. So maybe better to load your PayPal, pay then, save yourself an additional 2 weeks of time. But once it shipped, it was here, shipped on the 3rd, got here the 16th, so reasonably fast from there. So I cut this already as, your want to do with unboxing. So here are the two tools. Packaging is reasonable. I mean, it's not a lot in there, but it seemed to get here fine and reasonably taped up. But let's take a look. So these are our two examples, and I don't need to, but I found that if you want something and you're not sure if it's going to be available in the future, probably it's better to just buy the two, because you can almost always resell as opposed to try to get another one if it gets discontinued or hard to get for some reason. So there's a sheath, which is interesting because it looks like it's actually mounted on a bias almost. Interesting sheath. It looks like it's a sheath and diamond coated file, sharpening tool, just stainless steel with looks like a diamond coating on the 5 sides. Pretty aggressive compared to the Wave. This is a heavily used Wave, so most of the diamonds are gone, but even over here you can see that's much more aggressive. You can feel it. So that's kind of interesting, sharpening in the field, I would assume. So if you're familiar with, military issue items, especially anything from Russia, China, you're probably familiar with kind of the deluge of oil, lubricant that comes when you open one of these, and this looks like it's going to be no exception to that. So a plastic bag, heavily lubricated wax paper, because remember, this is not necessarily, going out the door to be sold. Like Leatherman tools, this may sit in a warehouse, sit in a bin, go directly into the field, so it's better to have an excess of lubrication, which you can see right there, kind of chunky, kind of waxy looking, than it would be to have a light oil that's easily wiped off, or have it be ready to handle in a showroom somewhere. So we'll give it a little bit of a rub down. And this doesn't look green when you look at pictures online, but it's definitely a green. There's a moose, there's some sort of branding. Odd use of Phillips screws everywhere, which I noticed in the pictures. I'm not sure if there's a lot of Russian history with multi-tools. Yeah, pocket clip, lanyard, split ring. Very thick. Much thicker than a Wave, probably much thicker than a Core or a Surge. Let's see what our Wave is. So your Wave, about 8.7 ounces. This guy with the lanyard, a little bit under 12, 11.7. Huge blade too, for a regular old multi-tool. Looks like it's almost 4 inches. Compare that to the military here, it's about 1/4 inch longer. Yeah, definitely bigger than what you'd see on a Wave. Probably bigger than what you'd see on a Surge too. And weirdly enough, the liner lock is super thick. I'm not sure how strong that is, but it definitely looks good. Goes all the way down too. So there it is. Regular liner lock Tonto. Next up would be, looks like the pliers. Yeah, so spring-loaded pliers. Action is pretty stiff. They have a reasonable opening, and you'll see too, there's the wire cutters right there. Wire cutters, snippers, pretty much anything. Can't tell if they're differentially hardened. It doesn't look like it, so this may be more soft wire, not so much hard wire. Oh, that might be what that is right there. You can see there's another option for your hard wire cutter. So let's see, spring-loaded pliers, nice little lock in there. Reasonably one-handed, lots of kind of waxy lubricant. It turns yellow on the paper towel, so it doesn't smell like anything. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but something petroleum-based, I'm sure. Pliers are going to be more general field use as opposed to something like an American butterfly multi-tool that you know is gonna mangle some nuts and just kind of be your general, I want that bolt off and I don't care how ugly it gets doing it. And also needle nose, because we tend to mess with stuff with the needle nose is what a lot of people want. This is more blunt, a lot of force behind it. And then the real interesting take, I wonder if this has some sort of specific use in the Army, and that you can sort of see in their teeth, but not really anything that looks like it's going to grip, you know, a standard nut, or maybe it will. We'll have to come back and test this a little bit. So there's the pliers, knife. Looks alright so far. Let's see what's next on the back. Looks like we have sort of an awl, sort of just a pick. Yeah, more of a pick than an awl. You can see distal taper on there. No edge bevel. Yeah, just kind of a pick. Very rough. Maybe you'll wear in a little bit. This tool seems like it would be extremely difficult to use with gloves, which makes it kind of an interesting choice. But so there's a Phillips, you know, good length on it. Good head on there. Looks like a P1 as opposed to a P2. But yeah, looks like it's alright. Stiff action there too. And then saw with, you know, can opener-ish attachment. And then serrated, which kind of looks similar to how aviation rescue knives are, in that this may be for cutting, you know, aluminum, sheet steel, something similar. And then this, you know, would be a bias cut wood saw. Looks like it's bi-directional, so that's pretty nice. And then the can opener is what that looks like, but we'll have to come back and mess with that too. Metric ruler. It's not laser. Oh, it is laser, but it's got some texture to it. So yeah, same super thick liner lock. Weird they put the saw on the back side, because I think that's where you'd want. So it's set up to actually use the serrated cutter as the primary, and then on the other side, against the lock, is your saw. I mean, you can get a thumb in there, but still kind of odd. Not sure if I could agree with that design choice, but they didn't send me the specs, so I guess that's a non-issue. So yeah, decent looking tool. More a, you know, historically interesting, something different sort of tool, as opposed to something, you know, you're going to put on your belt and, you know, take to work, walk around with, just have to be useful. In general, this would be more, you buy it, it's something cool and different to have. Or you're like some people and you just have every single multi-tool ever in really nice wheelie snap-on toolboxes. You'd probably want to add this to your collection, unless it's not your cup of tea, in which case, you know, you wouldn't. But surprisingly, fit is pretty nice. I have to clean it up before I can really, you know, make a determination on that. It looks like there's some rough casting, but not bad for the scales and the handles and all the tools and everything. Well, at the very least, it's interesting. So yeah, I'll dig into this a little bit, see if I can find out some more, use it, see if I can figure out what the steel is. Because the blade feels sharp, but it kind of has that lower grade steel to it. Definitely some texturing on the grind, probably a fast belt, because it is Tonto. I'm sure they were, you know, keep the cost down, get this in and out pretty quickly. But yeah, try to keep this under 10 minutes. It's surprising how fast it goes. Yeah, I'll take a look at this, clean it up, use it for a little while, you know, shove it in my pocket, or I guess my coat pocket, because it is cold enough out that you can carry something like this without it being too onerous. And get back and see how a little bit of jimping, I think, is actually thinner wire cutters. See, that's the thing. It's hard to tell. Is this, general issue? Is this EOD only? I mean, it's part of the equipment suite, so everyone is getting one. But then at the same time, it's, are they just funneling straight to resellers and coming to America, or are people actually using them? So hard to tell, because I don't speak Russian, and there's not a lot out there. But at the very minimum, it's not that bad for $80. It's pretty cool. So, if that was high on your wants, it'll definitely fill that. I think that's another little branding mark, but yeah, we'll have to definitely revisit this in a little bit. Pocket's nice. Almost looks like titanium. But yeah, Phillips screws are funny, definitely. But yeah, we'll come back to this. So that's it. Ratnik 66 sheath, diamond file. Weighs 3/4 of a pound and is pretty huge, but it looks like it's cool. So we'll update in a little bit.